Hey everyone, welcome to the rollout. I'm Linsay Rousseau.
I'm Genevieve Marie. Hello and welcome.
Happy 2023.
I know it's been a long time since we've been on the show,
Yeah.
but we're back because we have an amazing show coming up for you guys. We're all very much looking forward to The Last of Us that's coming to HBO.
Yes.
I believe it's January the 16th. Yeah, the
I
first
want to
show.
say I want to say that sounds right. Yes, yes, yes. Um yeah, I
Stunning.
mean this game has been in development obviously for a couple years, and if early reviews are accurate, people are heralding it as like the best video game adaptation ever, which is honestly not a high bar to cross, but from what I've read, the show is absolutely fantastic.
All right. So, yes, it really is so hard to turn games into TV shows, vice versa. Like I also have a huge problem with animes being adapted into
Yep.
live action TV shows and movies. This one, however, I like you said, Lindsay, it isn't a very high bar. That being said, we've had a couple successes coming out lately, like Arcane
Yes.
was amazing.
Mhm.
We also had Cyberpunk 2077's like spin-off TV series, which
Right.
was received far better than the actual game itself right out the
Right.
gate. Um, let's see, what else is there?
Well, I mean, I guess Uncharted wasn't a huge bomb. I mean, it
Oh,
wasn't like fantastic, but there's been worse adaptations besides it.
yeah, there's also Castlevania
Oh,
that was
that's true. There is Castlevania, and I adore Castlevania.
yeah, the last season was a little shaky for me, but all in all, it was a very strong product.
Well,
Uh,
I think one of the things that separates this from a lot of the other games that did not, or sorry, movie adaptations that did not do so well is that the creator of Last of Us has been heavily involved. Neil Druckmann has been heavily involved in the creation of the show, and I think that is going to have a huge influence as to why so many people find this so successful, because I think part of the issue is when you have these adaptations, you have people making them who didn't do the game. And I mean, I think that's why Arcane succeeded, because Riot had such a heavy hand in its creation.
right. And then you see people who absolutely trash the source material and you
Who's
get
their
away
lead actor? I don't know.
yeah, and lose their main actor. And I I just such a my kittens are knocking at the door. Uh, it's such a shame too
Yeah,
because there was such potential there.
yeah.
But at least with this one, I am not too worried, to be honest. I think that they will. I mean, the reviews are out now. I wasn't worried even before the reviews came out because honestly, you can't really screw this up. The Last of Us, the gameplay, I mean, it's a linear storyline. It's not open world. The game takes you from plot point to plot point, and it clearly has cinematic
Yes.
story beats to it. It basically is a movie that you're
Yeah.
playing through.
And
And
people have said it's one of the most narrative heavy video games out there. And, it won a bunch of game awards. It's arguably one of the best game stories that's ever been written. So
yeah,
it's got a lot of meaty source material to pull from.
I would have to agree with that. The first Last of Us is heralded as like the top tier, like S tier game.
Yep.
And I don't disagree with that. I grew up playing linear games with storylines and that were, heavily story based. And, we didn't have that many RPGs growing up to choose
Yeah.
from that did both a good open world concept and then also had a good storyline. I think the only one that really, like, was in the running was Assassin's Creed.
Yeah.
That also came quite a bit later in my experience gaming. Um, but yeah, I don't really have an issue, or I don't really have a fear that they are going to
Mhm.
screw that up. I believe that Pedro Pascal is going to do a great job.
Yeah.
Uh,
And
typecast,
Bella Ramsey's performance is already being heralded as like award winning. I mean, if anyone remembers her, she was the young little feisty queen from Game of Thrones and a couple of those, big open scenes. So I'm very excited to see her um, portrayal of Ellie. Yeah.
right? Apparently, they're both coming from Game of Thrones, which I
Yes, they are.
completely forgot that Pedro Pascal was in it.
Yeah. I mean, he dies pretty
You know,
quickly, but yes.
this is true. It's been a really long time now that I think of it
Yeah.
since I watched Game of Thrones. But yeah, I think and HBO is perfect to handle this. Um,
Mhm.
I don't think it could have been in better hands. The only things that I guess the only things to be worried about is the future, I would say, when they start handling w if when they start handling what goes on in the
Last of Us
second
2.
game.
Yeah. Well, because
Yes.
so far I think we've got Last of Us 1, and then there are going to be some storylines from some of the DLC from Last of Us 1. And yeah, because obviously Last of Us 2 also enjoyable, but didn't get quite the notoriety that the first one did.
Right. There were there were some missteps with the storyline with that one.
Yeah.
It definitely wasn't as strong narratively as it could have been.
Mhm.
Um And it definitely had some fans, up in arms,
Yeah.
some people with legitimate concerns, and then other people that had that just no.
Right. Well, and the good thing about
A legitimate
Yeah, I mean, the
concern.
good thing about the TV show is if they do decide to go on and cover some of the story from Last of Us 2 is that you have the creator of the game EPing your show and they can change up the
Right.
storyline. I mean, we've already gotten photos and names of original characters who were not originally in the game who are going to be in the show. So, if things, because now they've learned, oh, well, this didn't work right in the game. So they can always tweak it and make it better. And I'm not one of those people who gets all up in arms if people deviate from the storyline, as long as it stays true to the universe.
Yeah, I again, there is this very, like, Goldilocks sort of thing when you're adapting anything to a film medium, and it's either they go way off the written
Mhm.
storyline, the path that has been set out originally by the author, they go too far off the source material, which we all Witcher season 2, or they stay way too close to the source material, cramming in every little thing and every little experience that you would get while gaming
Right.
or, whatever they're adapting. And it just doesn't read correctly because gaming is not TV, is not film, is not
Right.
any other form of entertainment. It's not a comic book or a novel. You can't just take one art form and cram it into and try and put the square peg in the round hole,
Right.
so to speak. And I mean, this is also another thing, another point about adapting anime to live action. It's the exact same
Mhm.
principles as well. Um, but I think because they're so close, the difference between them, I mean, I would argue that anime and animated features is a whole different medium than live
Yes.
action TV.
Absolutely.
A lot of people would say it's a genre, it's a difference between genres, but I would disagree. I think genre is more like romance,
Yeah.
action, drama, tragedy.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's
Well,
not
mhm.
you don't add in animation into
Right.
that as a genre.
Well, and that's why, again, these early reviews have said that, they are taking a lot more time with the story. They're fleshing out characters that were just, letters
A
in the
bit
game,
part.
and they're using a lot more flashbacks because obviously we don't have the gameplay to keep viewers entertained, so we have to entertain them with the story. And from what I've been told, like the
Right.
clickers don't appear as much as in the game because you're not just running around killing clickers all day. So when they do appear, it's much more impactful, because you have to be more strategic about it, since the watcher is no longer actively engaged in the storytelling.
Yeah, you have to manage your pacing, and that's really going to play a huge part in making this TV show interesting, is
Right.
how they do manage the pacing. I read the articles that you sent me, and yeah, I guess it seems like they have added in extra scenes.
Mhm.
Uh, if you've ever played the game, one of the articles just kind of like drops a big old spoiler about a certain place that they're going to end up at a
Yeah.
certain time, and you're like, "Oh, that location actually has a huge story beat in it
Hmm.
that, like, basically it's like your second act twist." Uh, like, it's basically what, sets off the nadir of the whole, of the first game.
Right.
I'm just like, "Okay, so we will see that. Cool, good to know."
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, apparently, like you said, they are adding more people. They're expanding on roles that were already in the game, but,
Mhm.
were a little bit more, in the background. I'm wondering, for anybody that has played the game, I'm wondering if they are going to expand on the scene where they're in the sewer. Um,
Oh, yeah.
and they keep finding out what happened to the family and to the group that lived down there, and, like, because there's one part, I guess this is a bit of a spoiler,
I mean,
I
the
won't
game's been out since 2013, so.
yes, I won't say exactly what happens, but there's one part where, the 2 characters, Ellie and Joel, are, crossing, some of the a part of the country through the sewers because up top is filled with clickers,
Mhm.
and, they run in there, and the only way out is through. And they come up upon, notes and, like, it's little objects that you can and items that you can collect and find throughout your journey through
Mhm.
sewers, and you're also traveling with, 2 other companions at this time as well.
Right.
Um, and it talks all about the people that were living there and had an entire community there, and obviously they're not there anymore, but then you get to find out, like, what happens to them, if they're alive, if they're dead, who is what, and then you come across one of the characters later in a interesting way. They might be dead. Who knows?
Who
Uh,
knows?
who knows? But I'm wondering if they're going to do, like, little asides, with characters and events like that.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like they do. I think one of the things I was reading that is one of the most exciting expansions is uh what's his name's Offerman's character, who started Nick Offerman's character, who started out as essentially just a letter in the game and is going on to be like this fully flushed out character, with a relationship and everything. So it wouldn't surprise me if things like that, really do.
Did it say which character?
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Bill. Yeah.
Oh,
Prepper Bill.
okay. Yeah, yes. I was wondering if they were going to okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm just I'm excited, and we've already gotten confirmation that Troy Baker and Ashley Johnston, who originated the voices of Joel and Ellie, are going to have appearances in the film. Nolan North is also going to have an appearance in the film. Who huge video game actor, obviously best known from Uncharted. So I'm excited that they're really staying, that they're really honoring the source material in this, as opposed to just kind of like making it completely their own thing.
Yes. Looking at you, The Witcher.
Yes.
God, I can't even imagine what that's going to be like
I,
from
I,
here on out. It's
Um, yeah.
But yes, I'm interested to see how they're going to handle like the DLC as well because it's a prequel.
Hmm.
Um, maybe like I don't know, all of this stuff that seems to be extra added material seems like it's all flashback stuff.
Yeah, that's what it seems like. Yeah.
And I'm hoping that they, because I don't want too many flashbacks. I don't know. It always kind of derails what it it seems like that would derail what is already a very like tight
Hmm.
story.
We
When
only
you
have 6 episodes, I believe. Is it 6 or 9?
okay,
I think it's 6.
because when you play the game, each each story beat, each event that happens that progresses you through the story is very like, and I think that that is what makes you so engaged with
Yeah.
what's going on, is that you are going from one thing to the next, to the next, to the next, and you keep finding out new information or finding new people or finding out what happened to
Right.
old acquaintances. It's interesting in the way that it just continues the action.
Mhm.
So I think that having a lot of, like, flashbacks or would kind of hinder that. So
Yeah.
hopefully they don't do that, that
They're
they
doing
just
it selectively. Yeah.
somehow they integrate it into the main storyline that they're going to tell, or, like, with the DLC, it's easy. Do the bit with Joel,
Hmm.
at the very beginning, like, how it opens up, and then launch after you have the big, emotional moment that happens with him,
Right.
then launch right into the DLC, and then you have the big emotional moment that happens with Ellie, and then you're primed to having these 2 characters who are somewhat in their own ways a bit broken. Ellie
Right.
less so obvious. I mean, she's seen some
Because she
shit.
was born into this world, she's never known anything else.
Exactly. She's
Right.
seen some shit, but she still has that, like, innocence to
Right.
her, um, which I hear is a lovely thing that they bring into the show as well,
Yeah.
that she's just a ray of sunshine, which is nice.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, so
Yeah.
if they do it like that, where they're chronologically going through events, I
Yeah.
have no problem with it.
Right. And I have to say, I mean, I've only seen very brief glimpses of, screenshots because obviously they don't want to reveal too much until the show drops. But
Yeah,
I'm very, very interested to see the full breadth of the quote unquote zombies. Like I really am interested to see how they go from runner to stalker to clicker, to bloater, because those were just like the production design and the artistic design in the video game for those was just so
yeah,
amazing. And then the sound design that went along, and each version of the progression of the disease or of the fungus had its own distinct sound and look and everything. And so I'm very
yeah.
interested to see how that comes out. And from what I've heard, the sound design is amazing. So I'm very interested to see how that plays out within, are they going to really dive into horror elements of it, or is it going to still be kind of more actiony,
Probably both,
Yeah.
I would hope. I mean, because there are some really tense moments, like, there are some really good theatrically tense moments that you will have, like, that you have in the game with the
Hmm.
clickers, and, when you're trying to do, like, sneaking around and stealth attacks and
Right.
all that kind of stuff. So that is going to be a really good opportunity in the TV show to take that on. I'm excited to see, like, all of the FX and the makeup, and
Yeah.
like I'm excited to see, the actors who are portraying these characters
Hmm.
and how they move. Like, it's I want some Andy Serkis, like,
Yeah,
really
that's
good.
the big question I have, because obviously, Last of Us relied heavily, heavily, heavily on motion capture, performance capture for the video game. All of these creatures were created on the mocap volume, the animators and the performers working hand in hand to figure out, okay, how are these different creatures going to move? And then, the voice actors figuring out how they're going to sound. So obviously all that work went into creating the characters for the game. So hopefully, yes, they, either through motion capture or through creature performers and prosthetics, or probably a blending of both, hopefully they're gonna, replicate those creatures in a way that I think is exciting and interesting, and pays homage to the game, because I know how much work went into creating those.
Yeah. I know you know.
I know, I
Uh,
know.
I yeah, and that's pretty much all I have to say
Yeah,
about what we know so far. I I'll pray on a star for them, that they don't piss off the fan community. Um, we've seen what happens when things of that nature go down. Um, and especially, like, not even just with, like, beloved franchises, but even, like, them attempting to make a sequel to the one of the most, like, beloved games of all time. It was just like, you just shouldn't have made a sequel. Like, you know how you follow up the most beloved game of all time? You leave it
leave it
alone.
alone. Yeah.
You
But I mean,
don't.
it's a video game. What's a video game if it's not a franchise?
Oh god, yeah, I know.
How many
They
Witchers do we have now? How many Assassin's Creeds?
they couldn't leave well enough alone. I think, well, and here's the problem is that it's just the apple is just too juicy, like, you just can't
Yeah.
resist. And I don't know, as an artist, I feel wanting to, like, once you have, like, brushed the stars and, like, have created your magnum opus, of course, the
Yeah.
next thing to do is to ask, "Well, what now?"
Yeah. Well, and this is where, and we've talked about this before, this is where art meets business, right?
Also,
The artist, the storyteller, you've got your
they
arc,
want the
right? You've got your beginning, middle, and end, and that's it. But then the business people come in and are like, oh, no, no, no. How can we franchise this? How can we make more money off of this? And that's how you end up getting Obi-Wan the TV series, which should have been Obi-Wan the movie, and they just pad half the show with crap you don't need. And then and I feel like the Brits again do this very well, because it's like their TV shows, limited episodes, limited seasons. They're like, you know what? We got a story, we're going to put it out, and then we're going to be done with it. Whereas I feel like the Hollywood model is just like, how much more can we milk out of this?
Oh, I mean, with British TV, like, like, things that come off of the BBC is because they're government funded.
Yeah.
And so they have to be precious with what they put out, and it does have to have an ending.
Yeah.
Like, the only, like, I would say that, and they still had to pull teeth to get more seasons of Sherlock.
They did.
Like, at the same time, I would say that that one, to me, seemed to be, like, the most commercially, like, you have to give them more seasons, and I mean,
Right.
especially considering how that TV show ended as well. It's just
Right.
like, I you guys didn't care at the
Yeah.
end.
Yeah.
We're done. Like Game
Yeah.
of Thrones. I mean, we're
Yeah.
done.
And so here's seeing, I mean, again, they're saying season one follows very, very, very closely to the beats of the game, obviously diverts when it needs to. I think the problem happens when you run out of source material and Game of
Yeah.
Thrones happens. It's like, well, obviously, again, I feel more confident knowing that the game creator does have a huge hand in the show, which I think is going to help. And that if they do decide to dive into Last of Us 2, maybe they fix some of the things that fans had problems with. And then if they go beyond that, I
Right.
don't know. I don't know.
Who can
So
say?
we'll just
Uh,
say we're excited for season one. We'll see
yeah,
what happens next.
right, exactly. So yeah, thank you guys for tuning in. It's nice to be back.
Yeah,
Uh,
and we're gonna try and break down every episode as it comes out. So our little like after show type thing here.
yes, so be on the lookout because we are going to be The Last of Us all the time now until we come to the end, the bitterest
Bitter end.
bitterest end.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys for watching, and we are the Rollout.
And we
We
will
will geek with
see you
you next
next
week.
week. And thank God I remembered
I
it.
know, right?
I'm like, it's been a
It's been a while.
while.
It's been like a month or so.